So, enough of this spiel. Hopefully, the internet was not going in and out. But hopefully, we can hold on for the rest of it if it was, while I do my daily stack of cards. So, what I have here is my knowledge of the people, by the people, for the people, which is philosophy and wisdom from people throughout time and across cultures who've had a lot of things to say about what's essential. Dang, there's a lot. There's a lot of essential things. Not surprising. I think there's a lot of essential things that doctors, they had a much larger stack, and my stack is only growing. All right. Yeah, let's go right here. How about that? All right, let's see what we got today with our essential cards. Oh, God, I keep forgetting I can't read it backwards. It's Henry again. Okay, we did Henry yesterday. So, Henry Giroux is one of the, he would probably reject the term founding father too, but founding father of the critical tradition. Him and Paulo Freire are two of the earliest, Henry, especially in America. And Henry is still around, which is super exciting. Okay, so let me read what he has to say because I can't read what y'all were reading. All right. Nice. Okay. Education deals with needs and issues that arise from the groups involved. Okay. So this is really talking about how, and let me say real quick that yes, he is a critical educator like me. So teachers, but I don't want this morning session to be about teachers. That's for the afternoon. Teach time in the afternoon. Check it out. This is for the average adult. So let me say that when I'm talking about education, I'm not talking about schooling. We could be talking about schooling, but in this space, I'm not talking about institutionalized schooling. I'm talking about education as a social and historical project. It's a verb that humans have engaged in since the dawn of human history. We learn, as I said, intelligent species, we learn and we teach one another, right? We learn from each other's actions, we learn from each other's ideas, and vice versa. It's a fluid engagement that everyone is constantly engaged in. We're learning socially anytime we're out and about. We're picking up social cues and adjusting and using our intelligence to adjust. We're learning what's appropriate. If you go to a new space, a new cultural space, you're going to be learning and you're going to be watching and you're going to be engaged in the process of education of what are other humans, what are the norms in this particular space, what are the rules of engagement, if you will, right? Because each context that humans put ourselves in, we find ourselves needing to adjust accordingly, right? There's not going to be one set of rules that you can follow that makes sense in every situation, right? So to the best of our ability, there are some like human truths of being kind, but what kindness looks like is going to be different depending on cultural context and different spaces. So, yes, there are some things that resonate with all of us, but how to actualize that depends on the context every time. So, this is a process. So, that's what I'm talking about. So, in order for you to be engaged in a process of education, in a process of learning, it's going to need to be about things that are relevant, right? Needs and issues that are currently present, right? If you're not going to be dealing with needs and issues that aren't part of the context. That's just not going to be a very fruitful learning experience. Like he is talking about in the classroom, but my example really works, right? Of like, if you're in one social context, why would you be learning about issues and needs from outside that context? You wouldn't be. That's not how the process of engaging in learning works. It's always from what is in front of us. And so with critical thinking, and if we're going to become critical thinkers, we have to be able to identify what are the needs and issues that are arising in this space right now, because that is what is essential to whatever context you're in. As educators, the essential context for me is the needs and issues of my students, right? But you, as a critical thinker, it's going to be the needs and issues of whatever context you're in, your needs and issues, but also the other people around you, right? And finding this way to find equilibrium between all parties involved where needs and issues can be addressed accordingly, right? So that is what essential work is all about. This is what's at the heart of everything we do. Needs, the things that we require, and issues, which are the problems we would like to overcome. And problem solving is a need. So issues and needs are very, very intertwined. And often it's really hard to untangle them, but it is useful to give them two separate names, but they are pretty intertwined. Okay. So this also means, yeah, independence is required. You need to be able to independently determine what needs and issues are. You can't have an authority telling you, here's what matters, right? Here's the needs, here's the issues. This is a skill that we each need to develop independently, right? And if I put my teacher hat on, I'd say that's what school's for. And something we should be doing in schools is teaching essential sight, right? Being able to identify what that is. But that's a skill you as an adult can also strengthen, right? So you should be skeptical of anyone telling you what needs and issues are. Not because you don't trust them, but because you need to determine that for yourself. It requires an independent thinker to truly identify what are needs and issues. It can't just be these blanket statements. Like, it really does require deep discourse and intention with others. You're going to have to do the work yourself. You can't rely on someone else to have done it for you. We've got to discover what really matters on our own. Okay. So I could go into phenomenology, which, when we were talking about earlier, how I said the very first step in the critical tradition to problem solve is to name what something is, right? You can't meet your need unless you name it, right? That's why babies, all they can do is cry. They can't name things, right? Boy, would they, if they could tell you, clearly articulate what they wanted, whether it be cookie or a nap or a changed diaper or whatever, they would tell you if they could. They can't, so they cry. But that speaks to how vital naming and labeling things are. And we have that power as adult humans with language. We're able to do what babies can't and clearly articulate our needs, which means because we have this great power, it comes with responsibility, right? And the responsibility that it incurs is that you and I must develop our own sense of essential sight. We've got to be able to pinpoint what really matters. And that labeling and that naming of a phenomenon, like, hey, I have a need, I feel a need deep within me, that's a phenomenon, right? Like, deep within me, that isn't really like, how deep do we go? They're deep within also, like, uh, aren't I mostly this way? I don't know. That is a concept, that's metaphor and language that we've used to name something we feel. But like science, there's no test you could do that says, oh yes, I've run this test and they have this and this need, right? Some needs, sure, like I need more vitamin D. Sure, you can run a test for that, for physical needs. But for emotional needs and spiritual needs, these other needs that are just as important, intellectual needs, like think about when you don't know, oh my gosh, how about the a mystery, right? When you can't put down a mystery, it's because you're staying up till 3 in the morning because you've got to finish this book because you desperately need to figure out the ending. You've got to know. You must know, or you're staying up to binge watch that cliffhanger show that you've been watching. You need to know. You must know. It's desperate. It's in you. It's real. And it's deep in you, right? Yeah, no science could really prove that. I mean, maybe your heart's racing, blah, 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 but it couldn't say, "Ah, yes, they need to finish their mystery novel. That will cure this need." Like, no, that requires an understanding of the human experience, an understanding of phenomena. So the critical tradition is also open to, like, yes, science is really important, very important, and it's a very specialized field that, like, we really need to rely on heavily, but also there are things that science can't do, and we're gonna have to supplement science with other strategies to best help us meet all these human needs, and phenomenology is the science of phenomena, but it's basically saying there are other things humans experience kind of in stories. We experience narratives. We experience things kind of as their whole. And it's helpful to name the whole and parts of the whole. The more of the phenomena that you can label and name, the more effective you'll be at dealing with it and handling it and overcoming it. So that's what phenomenology is all about. It sounds a little like, ooh, new agey phenomenology. Like, I get it. It's not my thing. There are no crystals up in here. Don't send me a crystal. Seriously. No new age stuff. Not into it. Thank you very much. You're allowed to have your own preferences, and mine is not that. So, so phenomenology is not that, but it's a strategy to try and fill in some of those gaps that science just can't reach. To no fault of its own, science can't do everything. All power has limits, and science is very powerful, but it has its limits. And so we've got to figure out other ways to meet our needs because can't run a test for everything. And even before humans were running tests on things, they were able to identify and label their needs. Perhaps not all of them. Perhaps they needed other people to discover all the things they needed. And if they lived now, they might realize that they had different needs in a different context, just kind of how things work. So I think I'll cut off my talk on Essential today. I hope the internet wasn't too bad. Ew. I don't know what to do about that. Thank you for joining Henry and I again. So good to see him again. And I will see you next Tuesday for more wisdom, more tips and tricks. There we go. More tips and tricks for being an essential thinker and making sure that you have the critical sight it takes to be able to spot what really matters and what is critical. ER critical, urgent, rush them into the care critical. Got to know those things so that you can stay on top of it and make sure you have a flourishing life. So thank you so much for joining me today. You stay essential out there today and have a colorfully critical day. Bye.